Great. Thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. It is a beautiful day, and I appreciate your taking some time to spend with us at the University Transfer Center. I am Kristen Sierzinski, and I am here with my colleague Jessica Young, and we just want to take a few minutes to talk with you about the Transfer Center, and then we want to also give you a time to ask questions of us. So we want to, like I said, just take a few minutes to chat with you, really to talk about who the Transfer Center is and what we do. How do we support our students, your students, once they get to Charlotte, and how do we support prospective transfer students, as well as just some general advising tips and tricks that you may be interested in terms of working with students who are going to be transferring to Charlotte. So again, we're going to just chat quickly. This is in alphabetical order, the Transfer Center staff. We are made up of 5 professional advisors who support, whose sole job it is to support transfer students on our campus. And we are adding a 6th advising position soon. But from left to right, we have Audra Esposito, and she is our assistant director who has been with the Transfer Center since its inception. Robin McNeil has come to us this past summer, and she is from the South Carolina Community College System. I am the newest member of the team. I joined the Transfer Center as the director in January, but I have been at UNC Charlotte for about 15 years now, starting with working with one of our TRIO programs, and then for the past 10 years with the University Advising Center. Kyra Taylor comes to us from University of Michigan and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. And Jessica Young, who you'll hear from later, comes to us from the North Carolina Community College System and knows all the things. And she is the associate director for our 49er Next program. And again, this is our job. We are here to support you all, and we are here to support transfer students on our campus and before they get to campus. So how do we support transfer students once they leave you and come to Charlotte? Primarily, our primary responsibility and the primary way we do that is through advising. So if you have students who transfer to Charlotte and are university college students, we will be their primary advisor. They will be assigned to one of us in the Transfer Center. But we also provide supplemental advising to students no matter what their major. They may have another advisor on campus, but have just a question that is transfer related, and we are here to help them and work with those students as well. We also advocate for transfer students on our campus. So we work very closely with lots of different folks on campus to make sure transfer students are considered when we're making policy decisions and decisions about curriculum changes. We teach transfer seminar courses each fall. So if you have a student who's transferring to Charlotte, we have 1 credit hour transfer seminar courses that we hope you will recommend to them. This is a great way to teach students about the resources on campus and get them involved and lots of different things on campus. But also a good way for them to get connected to one another, build a sense of community, and really get to know their advisor very well and have that extra support. We also have some socioacademic programming for transfer students on our campus that allow transfer students to really get involved in an academic program that also helps them to develop that support system and gain that sense of belonging that we know is so important to student success. So we have a peer mentoring program. We've had a transfer learning community, as well as Tau Sigma, which is our transfer honors program. And those are some things that we have on campus. For those students who come to us as their primary advisor, these are students who are admitted to University College. And so we work with these students, like I said, as their primary advisor. And these students can be made up of both undecided students and undeclared students. And there really is a difference, and just to make sure you all understand what that is. Undecided students are those students who come to us oftentimes with a low amount of credit hours and they are really working to explore majors. And so we work with those students, and certainly we connect them to our Career Center to do some self-exploration, to think about their strengths, their interests, their values, and help to align those things with a major. We also work with students who know what they want to do, but maybe are working to meet the requirements to transfer into that major, or maybe they were admitted to Charlotte, but not directly into their major. Maybe it's business, engineering, nursing, computer science, something like that that's a competitive major. And we work with those students to make sure they're taking the classes that they need to take, make sure they have the resources, they know where to find tutoring and things like that, so that they can have the GPA that they need to be able to be admitted into those majors. And so these are students we meet with at least once a semester. It's mandatory meetings at least once a semester, but certainly we have many more touch points throughout the year. In addition to students who are already on campus, we also support prospective transfer students, and we do that by certainly partnering with other offices on campus. We work very closely with admissions, as well as many of the other colleges that you've heard from today or will hear from tomorrow. So we work with all these folks to make sure transfer students have a seamless experience as possible. We make sure that we are knowledgeable about all the different programs and pathways and requirements so that we can be an asset to you all and to transfer students. We update the BDPs. I say we, I mean Jessica updates the BDPs annually. So we make sure they're up to date and accurate for you all. And we also want to be available as a resource for community college advisors and students. So if you have a question, if you have perhaps a student with a tough scenario, or you're just not sure what the program requirements are for a certain major, you can always contact us. We are here to be a resource for you. We want to be a resource for you. We also are a resource for your students. So you can refer students to be in touch with us. The transfercenter.uncc.edu email is a great way to get in touch with us, but we meet with students all the time, via phone, via Zoom, sometimes in person, but certainly we can also answer those questions pretty quickly via email. So we definitely want to be a resource. And we also have 49er Next, which is one of our newer initiatives, but that's a guided pathway program. And that's the one that Jessica Young is our associate director for that. And that certainly helps us to stay up to date with community college needs and advising practices across the state. So those are some of the ways that we support prospective transfer students. And I'm going to let Jessica now talk with you a little bit more about those BDPs and some advising tips and tricks. And like I said, we will definitely be here to answer any questions that you may have.
Good afternoon, everybody. I realized I didn't actually say hello yet.
Sorry.
Yes, as Kristen, no, that's on me. So as Kristen mentioned, yes, I also work in the Transfer Center. I'm very heavily involved with the 49er Next program, but I do still see all transfer students on campus. And we are excited to work with any of your students as needed, because I do come from the North Carolina Community College system as well. I did want to spend some time today talking about the BDPs. I know that most of you probably use this day in and day out sometimes, but I do want to answer a couple of questions. Also wanted to let you guys know that this is something that our office updates and reviews. So as you all have questions or suggestions, or your students get confused or lost or anything, please don't hesitate to send those questions, especially about these particular items, our way, because we want to make these useful, because you guys are the ones using them. So we're the ones that are responsible for updating these. We do them annually. And so typically those get updated over the summer when they're updated on the website. And when I say on the website, admissions is the people who lovely and they host it for us. So you will not, that will be no change in how you find those, but they do host those for us on the website. I did want to talk a little bit about how to read these. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to throw those in the chat. We can come back to it and even look a little bit more deeply, but we do try to keep these organized by respective college here at Charlotte. We do try, we look at these all the time, so it makes perfect sense. But what we do try to do is break this up into 4-semester plan. Of course, we all know that typically that takes more than 4 semesters, and that is okay. But we do try to keep it in kind of that 2-year recommended plan. We do try to show students the equivalent courses when we're doing these on here. So we put, very specific courses for you all, very specific courses as they equate for us and like what that would equal to. And we try to keep in mind what are specific requirements on the associate degree, whether that's the engineering, science, or arts, or fine arts, even associate degrees. And you'll notice when you're looking at some of these, we don't particularly have a preference. We try to list all of those out when there's not a particular course that they have to take. And then, there is some kind of color coding keys on these as well. The one thing I know that I wanted to mention to you all today, because I know that I've had student questions about these, is especially when students change their mind. It happens, they change their mind, they go from one major to the other, and then they realize that they're probably missing something on this BDP that they didn't have on this other one. And maybe we were specific about it, but really the big thing I like to talk to students and other advisors about is those green courses are the ones that are usually the most critical, the most important for that particular major. Sometimes there's flexibility even within the green ones, but usually like if we have to focus on something because we may not have all this room to get everything back into this degree because they changed their mind, those are the ones I usually say those are the most important ones to look at on there. And what we also wanted to spend a little bit of time talking today is just kind of advisor to advisor. So the things that we see in the transfer center that we think would be helpful information or knowledge to kind of pass on to you all as advisors of our community college students. Because as Kristen stated, a lot of the students that come to us do know what they want to do. It's just that they may be wanting to do a competitive major. So being a competitive major, they maybe are admissible to the university, but not into their particular major, like business, engineering, computer science, and a few others. And so there are common themes that we notice as to why they may not have been admitted. And sometimes there are some things that they could do while they're there. So just wanted to spend some time talking about some of the things that we notice. A lot of some of this you will hear or you have heard today, of course, from some of our other college partners, but we did want to kind of harp a little bit on math. Now, I know that you guys probably talk about math till you're blue in the face, just like we talk about math till we're blue in the face and the importance of doing math. But we really, really mean it about the math part. And if your students are still on the fence, like, oh, I'll get it at Charlotte, give them our email. We're happy to talk to them about math. Because there are certain, like, while all these maths transfer, anything that's on your associate's degree that's a UGETSI course, yes, it transfers. We give gen ed credit. It's just not all of them equal what they think they might equal. And so really, I think the best like math to start out with, taking out of any type of developmental requirements and that kind of thing, is at least having Math 171 for these students, which equates to our college algebra course. Ideally, our STEM students would really have higher, and we'll talk more about that. But the Math 171 is a great transfer option because, of course, it counts as a general education for us, but also it gives them credit to be able to get into most other math classes. And I think that's the bigger piece on that. Statistics, great course. A lot of our majors need statistics. Even you heard from this morning, like data science and computer science, the BA, like they need this particular statistics course. We'll hear from business tomorrow. A lot of them will need this. And I think probably the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, almost all of those need this one. So that one, yes, absolutely. Depending on the major, I mean, that's a for sure. The one that we did want to spend a little bit of time talking about is Math 143. We do know that it's in the associate in arts. We do give students general education credit for Math 143. It's just a tricky one for us because while yes, it counts as one of their 2 required math classes for general education, and for some majors that is okay, but for a lot of our majors, they need more math specifically for the major, and Math 143 does not give any type of placement. So because a student took Math 143 at the community college, they actually can't just go right to college algebra here at Charlotte because Math 143 doesn't give them a math placement. And so it depends on the major, but most of them, we really would recommend the 171 or the 152, just to make sure that they're getting what they need and not kind of starting off a little bit lower or taking a little bit longer to get into something purely for math reasons, because we do see delays purely for math. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some of these competitive majors. And really, this is more of the lens of what are the common themes that we notice why these students are maybe with us as undeclared students and not directly in these particular majors like business, engineering, computer science, nursing, arts, and architecture. while yes, there could be a variety of reasons, there are some common themes as to why these students are with us. That they, they could get these things done or looked at while they're still with you all. So that way that they don't come straight to us and don't kind of spend longer with us. And the reason why we bring this up is because getting into these majors oftentimes is faster directly from admission than it is once they are a current student at Charlotte. Because the requirements to get into these majors as a current student at Charlotte is actually different than it is when Jamie's looking at these applications when they're applying to the university. And so that's why we kind of bring this up too. It actually looks very different sometimes. So with business specifically, I feel like you guys probably know this really well. This hasn't changed in a long time, and we'll hear from them tomorrow and they'll go through this again. I think all of us at this point, for the most part, if we've been with the community colleges for a little while, know that they have a certain set of business progression courses. There's a certain GPA that they look at. There are certain attempts that the students can have in these particular courses. What I have noticed from students when I talk to them who are not admitted into business, and maybe it's for GPA, but the biggest shocker surprise to them is that when they repeat a course with you guys, we look at both of the grades. And so that in itself is sometimes what hinders them. So maybe they took economics one time, maybe it's macro, micro, whichever. They got a D or an F in it. You all know that they need to have a C. Perfect. You have them repeat the class. Perfect. They get a B, A, C, whatever in it that next time. What students don't understand is that we will still look at the D or the F and the B or the A. And so sometimes that's where it gets a little bit confusing. And sometimes if they don't have all of those progression courses, yes, we'll have them take them here. But that is one kind of thing that I've noticed with students when we talk to them is that, oh, I retook the class. I didn't know that you still count it. And this is the only major on campus that actually goes back and looks at that particular grade from the transfer credits, the only one. Everyone else is like, you start fresh. Here's your new GPA. With engineering, these requirements are different, and they really do take students longer if they come into us not admissible to engineering and they come to us to work towards engineering. It's usually for math. It could be for other reasons, but it's usually for math, and it's for not having that math 271 class, which is required to get into that particular major along with the GPA requirement. But if the students don't have what they need to get into engineering right away, they often spend at least a year with us because there are so many classes that they have to take in terms of the first year curriculum according to engineering to get that done, or they have to go through that math sequence of algebra, the pre-calculus, and then the calculus, and then you all know that physics is after that. And so it takes a while for them to, and that's if we like lockstep it really well. And so they could spend a lot longer with us if they don't already have that calculus class before coming over. The other thing is with computer science, we heard from them today. They are so wonderful, and they're right. Like Math 171 is really all that they need, but we do have a lot of students who haven't taken math, or they took the wrong math that doesn't give them, the placement they need to get into computer science. And so computer science is, we still have students take classes within that particular major. I think that they make it pretty seamless as far as our competitive majors for students of being able to have access still to like programming classes and that kind of thing. But that's really the big kind of red flag we typically see for those students is just still not having the particular math classes that they need. They need the Math 171 to get into that particular major along with the appropriate grades and if they took CSE courses, but it all comes back to math, as I'm sure you all knew that information. One thing, and I will tell you this, coming from the community college, I don't know if I fully understood this particular one, and I don't think they specifically got very detailed in this earlier. I think they may have said this, but I wanted to mention it because we do get some students who wanted to do nursing in Mississippi University. They're wonderful students. But the interesting thing about how we articulate the credit here is that, as you guys know, Chem 1 and 2, Anatomy 1 and 2, and the micro, it's 4 credit hours at the community college. For us, it's a 3 credit hour lecture and a 1 credit hour lab. Yes, we bring the whole thing over just like you guys had, but we split it. So what that means is if they took the chemistry 151 with you guys, say they got a C in it. Okay, they passed it, it transfers, great. Well, what happens is we bring that over as chemistry lecture 3 hours, C, chemistry lab 3 hours, C. So then that gives them 2 Cs. And students are not allowed to have more than 1 C in those classes to be allowed into nursing. And so we've had more than a few conversations with students in our area where that is information that we have to share. As you all know, you all have wonderful nursing programs too. So sometimes that ends up being our conversation. But what I want students to understand is that that particular part is really important. Those sciences are a big deal. And we don't want them to get discouraged by any means whatsoever, because they are bright students because they're getting in here and wanting to pursue really great careers and great majors. But that part is a little bit tricky. And at the same time, don't feel like you have to memorize that particular piece. You can always send them our way to look at it, to verify, to share the information, whatever that looks like. But I know that that one is a particular one that sometimes catches a lot of students. And we'll hear, I think, from arts and architecture tomorrow. But this one it's not that they're not admissible to these majors, but this one, they have secondary applications. And the timing of those is a little bit tricky. So oftentimes, as you guys know, your students are not applying to Charlotte maybe early. And so I think Jamie talked about the due dates versus the due dates. So do them early. And so what happens is these particular majors, they only admit students one time per year for fall start programs. And if they miss that application period to the particular majors, then they have to wait another year. And what's difficult for the students who sit with us and they're wanting to do these majors is those classes are not eligible for them to take. So while the 2D, 3D design, the drawing classes and things that they can take with you all 100% transfer over to us and count particularly in that major, they can't take them with us. So they have to be in the major to do that. And it kind of holds them up if they know they want to do that, but they can't continue on and take more drawing or more any type of studio courses until they're actually in the major. So having those portfolio deadlines and knowing when those are is usually kind of what holds those particular students up. So I shared a lot really quickly, fast talker, but what kind of questions do you all have for us and what can we help with?
First, you guys got a huge shout out for your BDPs. We have, as you all know, across the UNC system, BDPs are always a hot topic. Ours have gone through quite a bit of revision over the years, and we are so excited that Jessica is overseeing that project, especially with her background in North Carolina community colleges. So we do want to make those as useful for you all and your students as possible. And so we are glad that you guys are finding those, that you're utilizing them, and we welcome feedback along the way as you're working with your students and those tools. So absolutely. Any other questions for our Transfer Center folks here at Charlotte? Kristen mentioned before, we do work very closely together, our admissions team and the University Transfer Center. I joke, if you send me emails about certain questions, I am not an academic advisor at all times. So we do work really closely together to kind of field those questions, and their team is a wonderful set of resources where if admissions can answer the question, we will maybe direct you or your students to the Transfer Center. If Transfer Center can't answer the questions, they may direct you and your students to us. And so we will continue to collaborate to work with you, to get your questions answered and work with you all. All right, ladies. Well, it looks like you answered all of their questions. I want to thank you both for being here today. I want to thank your team for being such transfer advocates across our campus. The reason our transfer students come to Charlotte and are so successful here is in large part due to the support from our Transfer Center and their advocacy work for our transfer students across campus. So thankful for their partnership. And we have come to the end of day one of our Transfer Symposium. We hope you all have enjoyed these sessions. We hope you're finding the information to be helpful. Know that we are here to answer questions along the way. We will kick things back off tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. So that our Transfer Symposium picks up right back where we left off with our College of Liberal Arts and Sciences tomorrow morning. Again, you can use the same Zoom link to access that session and the additional sessions tomorrow. And we want to thank you for your time. We hope this information continues to help you, and know that UNC Charlotte is very excited to meet with you all in the virtual world yet again tomorrow. So have a great afternoon and take care.